So before we start with this tutorial on SQL 101 for beginners, I want to say thank you so much to my 1000 wonderful YouTube family. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for watching my tutorials. Thank you for watching my videos. Because if it's not for your support, if it's not for your subscription, if it's not for your comments and your likes, Tech Up won't be here today. So we are here because you guys made it happen. So thank you so much, 1000 plus YouTube subscribers. And if you're just seeing my video for the first time, or if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, comment, like. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get right into it. So this particular tutorial is just like a snippet or taken out from the current project I am actually working out at the moment. So currently I am actually building a complete bootcamp for data analysts, right? That will be available on Udemy and Coursera. Now this bootcamp covers everything you need to know as an analyst, right? That works with Excel, that works with Python, that works with Power BI, and that also works with statistics. Now, in this bootcamp, I covered everything about data, I covered everything about statistics, we actually covered everything about SQL from beginner level to advanced, where we also talked about Windows functions, CTEs, and we also covered Excel from beginner level to advanced. So this is just like a snippet of that bootcamp. Now, in this particular part of this tutorial, we are just going to be covering what exactly is SQL, right? In the next part, we are going to be covering other aspects of SQL for beginners. So this tutorial is just for beginners looking at starting at SQL for the first time, or maybe you have an idea of SQL, yet you do not really understand it. So this tutorial is for you. Now let's move ahead. What exactly is SQL? I know that as a beginner data analyst, you have been hearing the word SQL. Everybody must have told you how important SQL is as a data analyst, but nobody has actually told you what exactly SQL is and why you need to learn SQL if you want to succeed as an analyst. Now, when we talk about SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Most companies store their data in a database, and SQL is used to query a database. I know that as a beginner, this language or these terms can actually sound confusing at first, but do not worry. As we go ahead, I will be explaining what a database is, and I'll be telling you what I mean when I say query a database. Now, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is an English language that is actually used to query the database of a company. I always tell my students that the fastest way to understand SQL is by seeing it as just the basic English language. Because if you understand how to write and speak English, you can easily understand how to work with SQL. So SQL is a structured English language for querying databases. One thing you need to understand is SQL is used to communicate with database. Like I mentioned, companies store their data in database. For you to retrieve data, manage data, or store data in a database, the language used for that is SQL. Now, you see the reason why SQL is important for an analyst, because SQL helps you communicate with the database of a company. Without SQL, communicating with the database of a company becomes nearly impossible. So SQL is the major tool designed for analysts to communicate with the database of a company. Now let's look at why is SQL really essential for a data analyst. One reason why SQL is actually important for a data analyst is because, like I mentioned, SQL is the language used to communicate retrieve and store data in the database of a company. So for a data analyst, SQL becomes essential to help you understand the data of a company in their database and also helps you perform your data analysis. Now, SQL helps me business make data driven decisions. Now, when a data analyst is working with SQL for querying the database of a company, you can simply look at essential data information of a company in their database. For example, let's say you're working on the database of a company that deals in telecommunication, and they're trying to know how many customers they have gotten, how many customers they have lost, and what is the total revenue they have actually gotten from the customers before they actually stopped dealing with them, which is also what is known as churn. Now, with SQL, you can simply retrieve this information. You can check the total number of customers that a particular company has gotten at a specific period of time. You can check the churn rates, that means how many customers they have lost or how many percentage of customers that they have lost. You can check the cost of acquiring these customers, and you can check the lifetime value of the customers. That means how much the company was able to gather or make from these customers before they actually stop using the services of the company. Now, another amazing thing about SQL is that SQL works with tools like Power BI, Python, and Excel. In my bootcamp, there were several exercises where we had to combine software to actually make an analysis. We had projects where we worked with SQL, Python, and Power BI. So we actually integrated Python, Power BI, and SQL to actually work on a project. So in that bootcamp, you will see how you can actually integrate different software to actually make an analysis. Now, we are going to be looking at SQL versus Excel and Python. Now, we are going to be looking at this software based on their features, right? The features we are going to be covering are we are going to be covering type, the data size they work with, how easy it is to automate processes with them, and how easy it is to use them for visualization and their speed when working with large data. Now, let's look at the type. One thing you need to understand is SQL is a query language. Like I mentioned, SQL is used to query the database of a company. When I talk about query, what do I mean? When you're querying a database, you are trying to understand the database. You're trying to communicate with the database. You're trying to get information from the database. You're trying to store information in the database. Now, this is what query actually means. So SQL is a query language that is used for querying the database of a company. Now, let's go over to Excel. Excel is a spreadsheet, right? Excel is a spreadsheet that is used for mathematical calculations and formula manipulations. So while SQL is a query language, Excel is a spreadsheet tool, and Python is a programming language. Now, Python is one of the most popular programming language that is used by developers, not just data analysts. Python is used by software engineers. Python is used by infrastructure engineers. So Python is used by several developers, not just data analysts. Now, let's look at the data size. Now, when you're working with SQL was built to actually handle very large data. Now, remember we mentioned that SQL is used to query the database of a company, and the database of a company can be very large. A database stores a large volume of data. Now, SQL was practically designed to actually query or to actually work with large data. Now, when you are working with Excel, for example, Excel is limited when it comes to working with large data. As a data analyst working for a company that deals with a very large number of data, if you want to work with Excel, you will be limited. That is why most times when you have a large number of data, maybe you have a data with a lot of rows, maybe 10,000 plus rows, as an analyst, the best software to work with becomes SQL, because SQL was designed to handle large amounts of data, while Excel handles small to medium amounts of data. Python also has the capacity to handle a very large number of data. One thing you need to understand is Python is not just a programming language that is used for data analysis. Python is a programming language that is also used for building machine learning models and performing light automation. Now, let's talk about automation. When we are talking about automation, automation simply means a process of limiting human interference in a task or in a process. Now, when you're automating a task, you're trying to eliminate human interference, you're trying to eliminate human error. So, you're trying to just make the process work without someone having to make it work directly. Now, when you come to SQL, automation is limited. You can also use Excel for basic automation, but automation in Excel is also limited compared to when you are using tools like Power Automate for automation processes. When it comes to Python, automation processes becomes very limited or basic. Now let's go to visualization. SQL is a data query language. So visualization in SQL is basic, right? Now, when you come to Excel, visualization in Excel is good. In Excel, you can actually build Excel dashboards, right? Now, I have tutorials on my YouTube channel where we have to build dashboards using Excel. So if you're looking at visualization in Excel, especially data visualization in Excel, Excel is your go-to for that. But if you're looking at advanced visualization for data analysis, like building advanced dashboards and all, then you should be looking at Power BI or Tableau. Now, when you come to Python for visualization, Python is advanced as it has so many inbuilt visualization packages. For example, we have our visualization libraries like Seaborn and Matplotlib. Now, when it comes to visualization, Python is quite advanced compared to SQL. Now, let's talk about speed. SQL is actually very fast. SQL was built for handling large databases. Now, when it comes to speed, when working with large databases, SQL is just man. Now, when you are working with large data sets in Excel, it slows down. So Excel was not actually built to work with large data sets. So if you're looking at working with large data sets, SQL or Python is just the guy. Now, when you talk about Python for speed, Python is a very advanced programming language. So Python is not just fast, Python is scalable, and Python codes are reusable. Now, this is just the core difference between these three software. So in the next part, we are going to be looking at what actually is a database.